The ship drifted through the endless dark. Engines were weak, power was low, and hope was running out. The crew had not seen a safe port in weeks. Supplies were almost finished. Every man and woman on board felt the weight of hunger pressing into their stomachs. The captain sat in the command chair, his face pale under the dim red lights. His voice was sharp but tired. "We are down to 3 days of rations," he said. "No trading stations nearby, no friendly colonies. We are stuck." The crew exchanged nervous looks. Some cursed under their breath. Others lowered their heads in silence. In the corner of the room stood a man who almost nobody noticed. He was not a soldier, not an officer, not a scientist. He was just human, quiet, plain, and unimportant. At least that was what everyone thought. He had spoken little since joining the ship. He followed orders, did his tasks, and stayed out of trouble. Most of the crew could not even remember his name. They only remembered his calm eyes, his slow movements, and the way he never raised his voice. Now, in this desperate hour, the man finally stepped forward. "I don't speak much, sir." His voice was steady, soft, almost too quiet to hear. "But I can cook?" The words made the crew pause. Some laughed bitterly. "Cook?" one engineer muttered. "We don't even have food left, idiot." But the man did not react to the insult. He only looked at the captain, waiting. The captain leaned back in his chair. His eyes scanned the stranger. Plain clothes, no rank marks, no weapons. Just another useless worker. "And why?" the captain asked slowly. "Should I care that you can cook?" The man simply shrugged. "Works for me." The captain stared at him for a moment. The room was silent. Then with a tired sigh he waved a hand. "Fine. Do what you want. If you can make something from nothing, go ahead. If not, at least we will laugh before we starve." The man nodded once. No argument, no extra words. He turned and walked out. The kitchen of the ship was a cold, forgotten place. Metal counters were empty. Storage units almost bare. Only scraps remained. Dry powder, canned meat, old roots from alien markets. Nothing looked useful. Nothing looked edible. Yet the man's hands moved with calm skill. He took the scraps, touched them, smelled them, and began to work. His knife was quick, precise, almost too sharp for something so dull. His movements were silent but full of purpose. The crew gathered at the door, whispering and mocking. "What's he doing? Making soup from dust? He's wasting our last scraps." But slowly a smell filled the air. At first faint, then stronger. Warm, strange, alive. The captain himself walked into the kitchen, his eyes narrowing. The smell wrapped around him like a memory he could not place. "What is that?" he asked softly. The man did not answer. He stirred the pot, his face calm, eyes fixed on the glowing liquid inside. Steam rose, carrying scents of herbs and spices no one recognized. The scraps had transformed into something else, something impossible. One by one, bowls were filled and handed out. The crew hesitated. Hunger pushed them forward. They ate, silence, then gasps. The food was simple, yet powerful. Warmth spread through their bodies. Strength returned to tired muscles. Fear and despair melted away. Even wounds and bruises felt lighter, less painful. This is not normal," one medic whispered, staring at his trembling hands. "What did he do?" The captain finished his bowl, his eyes locked on the cook. "Who are you, really?" The man only gave a small smile. No answer. That night, the crew slept better than they had in months. Dreams were clear, peaceful. No nightmares. For the first time in weeks, laughter echoed in the ship's halls. But the captain did not sleep. He sat awake, staring at the stars, thinking of the quiet cook. Something was wrong. Something was hidden. Food could not do this. No normal man could do this, the captain whispered to himself. This isn't just cooking. This is something else. And in the shadows of the kitchen, the man cleaned his knife slowly, carefully, as if waiting for something. His calm eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. He whispered words no one else could hear. The universe is always hungry. The morning after the strange cooking, the ship felt different. The crew walked with more energy. Faces that once looked pale now had color. Even the cold metal corridors seemed less heavy. But in every corner, whispers followed one name, the quiet cook. No one knew where he had come from. His record showed little. Just human, unranked, transferred from colony station. Nothing else. He had always been in the background, never important. Now, after one meal, everyone noticed him. The captain, still suspicious, called the crew together in the mess hall. All right, the captain said firmly. Yesterday, this man turned scraps into something impossible. Everyone felt the effects. That is clear. But we are not children. We need answers. All eyes turned to the cook. He stood near the kitchen counter, silent as always. Well? The captain asked. What are you? The cook tilted his head. His expression was calm, almost empty. Finally, he said just one sentence. I told you. I cook, groans rose from the crew. Some laughed, others cursed. That's no answer. He's hiding something. I don't care what he is. I just want more food. The captain silenced them with a wave. His eyes never left the cook. Fine, if you cook, then cook again. This time we all watch. The cook gave a small nod. Works for me. The kitchen came alive once more. This time the crew stood close, leaning against walls, sitting on counters, watching every movement. The cook opened the storage again. Inside were nothing but old cans, bitter roots, dried blocks of protein. Worthless to anyone else. Yet when he touched them, something changed. His hands moved with careful rhythm, as if each motion carried meaning. Knife against board, sharp, quick, precise. Steam hissed, oil cracked, spices released scents no one recognized. The air thickened with warmth. A smell rose, richer than before. It carried comfort, safety, even joy. One engineer wiped tears from his eyes without knowing why. It smells like home. Another soldier whispered, I smell the ocean. But I grew up on a desert world. How the cook said nothing. His focus was complete. His hands worked like an artist painting light on canvas. When he finally lifted the pot, the liquid inside glowed faintly, as if stars themselves had melted into it. He poured it into bowls and handed them out. The first bite was silence. The second was shock. The third was something close to awe. The food carried more than flavor. It carried memory. Each person tasted something different. The captain tasted his mother's cooking, long forgotten. The engineer tasted the first time he had kissed someone he loved. The soldier tasted peace, a day when no one tried to kill him. Tears ran down faces, but no one cared. The food was more than food, it was life. What is this? One crew member whispered, staring at his half-empty bowl. The cook only shrugged. Dinner. But not everything was joy. One medic dropped his spoon, breathing hard. Captain, I can see something. The captain turned sharply. What do you mean? The medic's eyes widened. Stars moving, shapes in the dark. I can feel them watching. Others began to tremble too. One engineer whispered that he could hear voices in the steam. A soldier dropped her bowl and gasped, claiming she saw the ship's walls breathing. Panic spread. Stop eating, the captain shouted. He slammed his bowl down and stood. Enough. The crew froze. Some wanted more. Others pushed their bowls away. The cook, still calm, cleaned his knife slowly. You asked me to cook, he said quietly. I did. The captain pulled him aside after the meal. Alone in his quarters, he slammed his hand on the table. This is no joke. What are you doing to my crew? The cook raised his eyes. They were calm but deep, like they held entire galaxies. I feed them, he said. Nothing more. Don't lie to me, the captain snapped. That food? It changes people. It heals, it breaks, it shows things that should not be seen. The cook stayed silent for a long moment. Finally, he gave a soft shrug. The universe is full of hunger, he whispered. Sometimes it eats us. Sometimes we eat it back. The captain's blood ran cold. That night, the crew did not sleep as peacefully as before. Some dreamed of warm homes, safe and happy. Others dreamed of endless dark, of eyes staring through the stars, of teeth waiting in the void. And in the kitchen, the cook prepared his tools again, sharpening the blade with slow, steady strokes. The ship drifted on through space, but something had changed forever. The first meal was over, and it was only the beginning. The ship floated through the dark sea of stars, engines still weak but spirits strangely alive. Days had passed since the cook had prepared his strange meals. The crew could not stop talking about it. Some swore it was only good food. Others whispered that it was something more. The captain, however, stayed silent. He watched his crew carefully, and he began to notice things. The first sign came from Lieutenant Rin, a soldier with a scar running down his arm. The wound had been there for years, a burn from plasma fire, but after eating the cook's food, the scar began to fade. One morning, Rin rolled up his sleeve and shouted, "Look at this. It's almost gone." The crew gasped. The medic checked, confused. Impossible. This scar was permanent now. Now the tissue is healing as if it's fresh. The cook stood at the back of the room, quiet, expression unreadable. He said nothing. The second sign came from an engineer named Mara. She had suffered migraines since childhood. The pain often left her blind for hours, but after 3 meals from the cook, the headaches vanished. I feel clear, she said with wide eyes. My mind, it's sharper. I can see the ship's wiring in my head, every system, every part. I've never felt this before. She rushed to the engine room and fixed 3 problems that had troubled the crew for months. Her hands moved with impossible speed as if guided by something greater. Again the crew cheered. Again the cook stayed silent. But not all changes were welcome. The medic, who had once seen strange stars after the second meal, now began to see more. His eyes grew hollow, his skin pale. He muttered to himself, whispering words no one understood. The shapes, they move closer every time I sleep, he said one night, shaking. They are waiting in the dark. They are hungry too. The captain tried to shake sense into him. You are hallucinating. Get some rest. But deep down, even the captain could not ignore the truth. The food was doing something unnatural. It healed, it sharpened, but it also opened doors that were better left closed. The crew grew divided. Some begged the cook for more meals, desperate for the strength and peace it gave. Others feared him, whispering that he was a danger, a curse. Tension grew in the halls. Shouts echoed. Fights nearly broke out. Finally, the captain called the cook into his quarters again. I need answers, the captain demanded. His hands trembled, but his voice was firm. Your food, it changes people, heals them, breaks them. What are you doing to us? The cook looked calm as always. He set his knife gently on the table, the blade shining under the dim light. I told you before, he said softly. I cook, the captain slammed his fist down. Stop playing games. This is not cooking. This is something else. My crew is changing. Some for the better, some not. For the first time, the cook's eyes seemed to glow faintly. He leaned forward and whispered, change always comes with hunger. The universe takes. I give back. The captain froze, shivers crawling down his spine. He wanted to ask more, but the cook stood and walked away, his voice calm. You will see soon. That night, the changes grew worse. Lieutenant Rin woke screaming, his healed scar glowing faintly in the dark. Mara, the engineer, worked non-stop in the engine room, claiming she could hear the ship whispering to her. The medic, lost in visions, scratched drawings into the walls, shapes of teeth, eyes, and stars that bent in impossible ways. The crew began to fear the food that had once saved them. But hunger was stronger than fear. When the cook prepared another meal, almost everyone ate. The taste was too powerful to resist. The captain refused. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at his untouched bowl. His hand shook as he whispered to himself, this is not food. This is a weapon. He wanted to throw it away, but the smell pulled at him, dragging him back to memories long buried. His childhood, his home, his mother's smile. His hand lifted the spoon. His lips touched the broth, and suddenly, he saw not just stars, not just dark, but something deeper, endless, alive. The universe itself turned its face toward him, and for the first time, he felt it watching. The captain dropped the bowl, gasping for air. His heart raced, his skin cold. He clutched the table, shaking violently. The cook appeared at the door, silent, calm, his shadow stretching across the floor. You see it now, he said softly. The captain looked up, fear in his eyes. What are you? The cook gave the smallest smile, one that did not reach his eyes. I told you, he whispered. I cook. That night the crew slept uneasily. Some dreamed of light, others of endless hunger. The medic whispered in his sleep, repeating the same word again and again. Waiting, waiting, waiting. And in the kitchen the cook sharpened his knife, the sound echoing like thunder through the empty halls. The strange effects had only just begun. The ship drifted in silence. Engines hummed weakly and the crew moved like shadows. They were stronger than before, healed, sharper, faster, but also restless. The cook's meals had changed them in ways no one could explain. Some whispered it was a blessing. Others called it a curse. The captain barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the same vision. Eyes in the dark, watching, waiting. He tried to ignore it, but deep down he knew it was real. And then the signal came. A piercing alarm rang across the ship. Red lights flashed. The crew ran to stations. The captain's voice shook as he read the transmission. Unknown vessels, approaching fast. On the radar, sharp points of light moved like predators through the void. Their shapes were long and jagged, built for hunting. The crew recognized the design at once. Raiders, someone whispered, pale with fear. Alien raiders. These were not peaceful traders. Not explorers. These were killers known across the stars for stripping ships bare, leaving only wreckage behind. The crew panicked. Weapons were weak. Engines too slow. They had no chance. The captain clenched his fists. All hands prepare to fight. We won't go down easy. But as the crew scrambled, one figure remained calm. The cook. He walked to the captain and spoke softly. Don't fight yet. Feed them first. The captain stared at him in disbelief. Feed them? Are you insane? They'll slaughter us the moment they board. The cook's eyes stayed steady. Trust me, the captain wanted to scream. But deep down, something about the cook's voice made him hesitate. Against all logic, against all reason, he gave the order. Prepare the mess hall. The raiders struck like knives, cutting into the ship's hull. Metal screamed, sparks flew, and then the invaders poured inside. They were tall, armored creatures with jagged teeth and glowing eyes. Their weapons hummed with deadly power. The crew raised rifles, hands shaking, but before a shot could fire, a smell filled the air. The raiders froze. Their weapons lowered slightly. Their nostrils flared as the scent wrapped around them. Warm, rich, alive. In the center of the mess hall, the cook stood over steaming pots. Bowls already waited on the tables, glowing faintly as if lit from within. The raiders hissed in their language, but hunger pulled them forward. One of them, their leader, snatched a bowl, sniffed, and then drank. The hall went silent. The alien's eyes widened. Its body shivered. Then it roared, not in rage but in awe. The sound echoed like thunder. The others rushed forward, grabbing bowls, drinking greedily. The crew watched, frozen. Were they mad? Were they giving food to monsters? But then something strange happened. The raiders stopped. Their weapons fell to the ground. Their glowing eyes dimmed, softened. They looked at the cook with shock and fear. The leader dropped to one knee. His voice was harsh but trembling. Impossible. This flavor. This power. Only humans. The crew gasped. The raiders were not enemies anymore. They were kneeling. The captain stepped forward, stunned. What do you mean, only humans? The leader turned his head slowly. Long ago, before your kind vanished from the stars, humans were known as flavor bearers. Your food carried memory, strength, life itself. Entire empires once sought it. Wars were fought for it. The crew stared at their cook. You, the leader continued, pointing a clawed finger, are one of the last. A guardian of the ancient gift. The captain's heart pounded. The whispers, the visions, the strange changes. It all made sense now. He turned to the cook. Is this true? The cook's expression never changed. He cleaned his knife with a cloth, calm as always. I told you, he said softly. I cook. The mess hall filled with silence. The raiders, once enemies, now sat humbly at the tables, finishing their bowls like obedient guests. Their weapons lay forgotten on the floor. The crew whispered among themselves. Some were relieved. Others were terrified. The captain leaned closer to the cook. If humans had this power, why did no one remember? The cook looked at him, eyes steady, voice low. Because hunger never forgets. But memory does. The word sent a chill down the captain's spine. Later that night, as the raiders departed peacefully, leaving supplies instead of taking them, the crew stood in awe. They had expected death. Instead, their quiet cook had turned predators into allies, with nothing but a meal. But the captain was not comforted. If the raiders remembered the legend of the flavor bearers, then others would too. Word would spread, and the universe was very, very hungry. The captain whispered to himself as he watched the stars. What have we awakened? In the shadows of the kitchen, the cook sharpened his knife, the sound steady, patient, endless. The mess hall still smelled of spices and strange warmth. The bowls were empty, but the memory of the taste lingered in the air like smoke after a fire. The alien raiders sat quietly, their weapons forgotten, Their sharp faces softened with awe. They did not look like conquerors now. They looked like pilgrims at a holy place. The crew, however, remained tense. Soldiers gripped their rifles. Engineers whispered in corners. The captain stood at the center, his hand resting on his sidearm, his eyes fixed on the cook. He had seen enemies defeated before, but never like this. The alien leader lowered his head toward the cook. His voice was rough, broken, yet strangely respectful. "We came for blood," he admitted, "but you gave us flavor, and we remember." "Remember what?" the captain demanded. The leader turned his gaze toward him. "The old times, when humans still walked among the stars, when your kind fed worlds, healed armies, and cursed empires with taste alone. The flavor bearers." The words spread through the crew like fire. Some looked at the cook with fear. Others with admiration. The captain frowned. "And what happens now?" The alien leader's glowing eyes flickered. Now we bow. For the taste cannot be refused, not by us, not by anyone." The cook said nothing. He cleaned his knife slowly, the sound of steel against cloth echoing in the silent hall. One of the younger crew members, trembling, stepped forward. "Sir, if this is true, if he really is one of them, does that mean he can control anyone? Any enemy?" The captain clenched his jaw. The thought chilled him. A weapon like that was more dangerous than any gun. The cook looked up, finally speaking in his calm, steady voice. "I feed, that is all." But his words only raised more questions. The alien leader reached into his armor and pulled out a small box, ancient and covered in strange carvings. He placed it gently on the table. "This was passed down through generations," he said. "A relic from the first wars with humans. We never understood it, but perhaps you will." The crew leaned closer as the cook opened the box. Inside was a small vial filled with golden dust. It shimmered faintly, almost alive. "What is it?" the captain asked. The alien leader bowed his head. "The last seasoning." The cook stared at the vial for a long moment. His expression did not change, but his eyes seemed older. Heavier. He whispered one word. "Forgotten." The crew felt a shiver run down their spines. The aliens rose slowly, gathering their weapons but not raising them. Before leaving, the leader placed a clawed hand over his chest and bowed again. "You have fed us. We are bound. No hunter will touch you while our ships live." And with that, the raiders departed into the void, leaving behind silence and confusion. The crew turned on the cook at once. Questions flew like sparks. "What is the last seasoning? Why do they call you a flavor bearer? Can your food really control whole armies?" The cook listened quietly, then raised a hand. His voice was steady but sharper than before. "Food does not control. It awakens. It reminds. It feeds what is already there." The captain narrowed his eyes. "And what if what is already there is dangerous?" The cook gave a small shrug. "Then the meal is dangerous." That night the crew could not rest. The promise of protection from the raiders was comforting but also terrifying. If one meal could turn enemies into allies, what would happen when more species discovered this secret? The captain stood alone at the observation deck, staring at the stars. His voice was low, bitter. "We are no longer hunters. We are prey, carrying bait." Behind him, the cook appeared silently, as if the shadows themselves had carried him. "The universe is always hungry," he said. "And hunger spreads." The captain turned sharply. "What do you want from us?" "Why reveal this now?" The cook's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the starlight. His knife gleamed in his hand, not in threat, but in ritual. "Because soon," he said softly, "the strangers will not come for battle. They will come for the table." And as if to prove him right, the ship's sensors lit up again. Multiple signals. More vessels. Not raiders this time. Something larger. The captain's heart pounded. "They're coming already." The cook only nodded. His calm face never broke. "Then let us prepare the feast." The ship's corridors echoed with nervous footsteps. The crew had no peace. Every shadow felt heavier, every sound sharper. Since the raiders had left, a question hung over them like smoke. Who was their quiet cook? He was no ordinary man. His food healed wounds, sharpened minds, broke nightmares. His meals turned enemies into allies. And now strangers across the stars were beginning to take notice. The captain could no longer hold his silence. In the mess hall, the crew gathered. Their faces were pale, eyes filled with fear and curiosity. At the center stood the cook, calm as ever, his knife in one hand, a bowl of glowing broth in the other. The captain slammed his hand on the table. Enough, no more half answers. No more shrugs. You will tell us who you are. You will tell us what you are. The cook looked at him for a long time, his face unreadable. Then he placed the bowl down gently, as if even that simple act carried weight. At last he spoke. You want truth? Then listen. The hall went silent. Long ago, the cook began, humans were not forgotten wanderers, not broken refugees on dying worlds. We were known. Across galaxies, our name carried weight. Not for war, not for weapons, not for power. He paused, his voice low, steady. We were known for flavor. The crew shifted uneasily, some scoffing, others holding their breath. The cook continued. Our food was not only food, it was memory, connection, strength. Every taste carried the essence of life itself. To eat what we made was to see clearer, to heal faster, to remember deeper. Armies marched with our meals in their veins. Leaders made peace at our tables. Empires rose and fell by the dishes we served. His eyes glowed faintly as he spoke, as though starlight lived inside him. But power always draws hunger. Others envied us, feared us. And so they came. War spread across the stars, not over land, not over riches, but over spice and taste. The war of flavor, the crew gasped. Some laughed nervously, but no one truly doubted. The captain leaned forward, voice sharp. And what happened to us? If humans were so powerful, why are we forgotten now? The cook's face darkened. We fed too much. We gave too freely. And the universe, hungry as always, took more than it should. They stole our kitchens, burned our recipes, destroyed our chefs. In the end, only a few survived. Guardians sworn to carry the gift in silence, hidden, waiting. He raised his knife slowly, the blade catching the light. I am one of them, a culinary guard. My duty is simple, to cook, and to protect. Whispers spread like fire. Culinary guard? Is he saying there are more like him? Or is he the last? The cook ignored their noise. He looked at the captain directly. But now the silence is broken. The raiders will speak. Others will come. Word of human flavor will spread again. And once more, the universe will hunger for us. The captain's chest tightened. He remembered the alien leader's words, only humans. He saw the vial of golden dust. He thought of the visions, the healing, the madness. We are not ready for this, the captain muttered. We are one ship. We cannot fight entire empires. The cook's voice was calm, almost gentle. You do not fight with weapons. You fight with the table. The words chilled him more than any threat. One crew member, desperate, cried out, if this gift is so powerful, why not destroy it? End it forever before it destroys us too. The cook's head turned slowly toward her. His eyes narrowed. Destroy flavor? His voice was quiet but sharp as a blade. You cannot destroy hunger. You can only feed it, or be eaten by it. The hall grew colder. Even the lights seemed dimmer. The captain stood tall, hiding the fear in his chest. If what you say is true, then we are carrying a curse. Every alien, every empire, every monster will come for us, and all we have is you. The cook gave the smallest smile. Then you are safer. Then you think. He lifted the bowl of broth again and set it before the captain. Eat, see, understand. The captain hesitated, his hand shaking as it touched the spoon. Around him, the crew leaned in, breathless. He tasted. Warmth filled his body at once. His vision blurred, not with fear, but with clarity. He saw memories not his own. Great banquets across galaxies. Tables that stretched for miles, empires kneeling before human chefs. He saw wars ending with a single dish, peace signed over steaming bowls. And then he saw darkness. Empty tables, burned kitchens, screams, silence. When the vision faded, he dropped the spoon, gasping for air. The cook stood over him, calm as ever. Now, he whispered, you know why we hid. The captain looked up, his face pale, his voice barely a whisper. And now the universe will come again. The cook nodded once. His knife gleamed under the light. Then we prepare the Last Supper. The ship was no longer silent. Every console buzzed with warning signals. More ships approached, dozens, maybe hundreds. They were not raiders this time. They were empires, hunters, explorers, all drawn by whispers of a human cook. The captain stood on the bridge, staring at the endless lights on the radar. His heart pounded. They're all coming for us. The crew's voices rose in panic. They'll tear us apart. We can't fight them all. This is the end. But in the middle of the chaos, one figure was calm. The cook. He entered the bridge quietly, knife strapped to his side, eyes steady as ever. His voice was soft, but every word cut through the fear. "No," he said. "This is the beginning." The captain turned on him, anger burning in his chest. "You brought this on us. Your food, your secrets, your curse. Now they'll destroy us." The cook tilted his head slightly, his expression unreadable. "They are not here to destroy, not yet. They are here to taste." The words chilled the crew more than any threat. In the mess hall, preparations began. The cook gathered every scrap of supply left, roots, powders, strange meats, the vial of golden dust. His hands moved with ritual precision, as if he had been waiting for this moment his whole life. The crew watched, torn between fear and awe. Some whispered prayers. Others sharpened weapons, knowing the meal might not be enough. The cook stirred the pot. The broth glowed brighter than before, its steam twisting into shapes of stars and memories. It was beautiful, terrifying, alive. The captain stepped forward, his voice low. "What are you making?" The cook did not look up. "The Last Supper." When the first enemy ship docked, the crew held their breath. Armored soldiers poured in, giants from a warlike empire, eyes burning with hunger. They stormed into the mess hall, weapons ready. But the smell stopped them in their tracks. The cook was already waiting, bowls lined neatly across the tables. He lifted his knife, pointed it toward the strangers, and said only one word: "Eat." At first they resisted, but hunger is stronger than pride. One by one they tasted, and silence fell. The soldiers froze, eyes wide, bodies trembling. Some dropped their weapons. Others knelt, whispering words in their own tongue. Soon their leader bowed low, voice shaking. "Flavor bearer," he said. "We remember." The crew gasped. More ships docked. More strangers arrived. Some from ancient empires, some from forgotten tribes. All came for the same reason. All tasted. All fell silent. The mess hall filled with enemies who were no longer enemies. Aliens of every shape and size sat together at the same tables, bound not by war but by flavor. The cook moved among them, silent, calm, feeding each one as if they were old friends. His eyes glowed brighter with every bowl he served. The captain could not believe what he was seeing. Entire armies kneeling, weapons abandoned, leaders trembling before one quiet man with a knife. He whispered to himself, "This is not a battle. This is a throne room," but the cook heard him. He turned, his calm voice sharp as steel. "No, this is a table. A table is stronger than any throne." The final bowl was served. The golden dust shimmered in the broth like sunlight trapped in liquid. The cook lifted it high, his voice steady but filled with power. "Eat well, my friends," he said. "The universe is hungry." But tonight, it eats with us. The hall erupted in whispers. Aliens wept. Soldiers bowed. The crew, still stunned, felt the weight of history pressing down on them. The captain stepped forward, his voice shaking. "And what happens tomorrow?" "When the hunger returns." The cook lowered the bowl slowly. His eyes seemed endless, carrying both light and shadow. "Then," he whispered, "we cook again." That night, the mess hall glowed like a star. Enemies shared food as equals. The universe itself seemed to hold its breath, but deep in the captain's chest, fear lingered. He saw the way the aliens looked at the cook, not just with respect, but with need, desperation, addiction. He knew the truth. This peace would not last. The hunger would grow. The universe would return again and again until nothing remained. The cook cleaned his knife in silence, the sound echoing through the hall. His face remained calm, but his words, whispered only to himself, were heavy as stone. The Last Supper is never truly the last.